So, how does a country that was, dealing with some really basic challenges end up conquering the moon? It sounds like a movie plot, right? But it's the real story of ISRO, India's space agency. And what's so fascinating is that this isn't just a story about rockets. It's about a totally different way of thinking about space. So yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, so everything, and I mean everything, goes back to the single idea from its founder, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. You have to remember, at the time, the US and the Soviet Union were in this massive space race. All about prestige, right? Who gets there first? But India's vision? It was completely different. It wasn't about planting a flag. It was about using this incredible high-tech stuff to solve actual problems for people back home.
And that philosophy? Well, it set them on a completely different path. A different kind of race, you could say. One that was all about service, not just showing off. So let's officially meet ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization. It was formed back in 1969, and this is when India's space dreams really got serious. Their job description was pretty clear. Build the rockets, launch the satellites, explore space, but, and this is the important part, always do it to help people. That practical, down-to-earth mission is just, baked right into their DNA.
But look, having a great mission statement is one thing. You still gotta build the actual rockets to get off the ground. And for a developing nation, that was a massive, massive hurdle.
Yeah, ISRO's journey to orbit wasn't an overnight success. It was a long, slow climb. They started with baby steps, like in 1980 with the SLV-3. That little rocket made India only the 7th country in the world that could launch its own stuff. Then, in the 90s, came the PSLV. Oh, this thing is a legend. It's their workhorse, the one they could always count on. But now they have the LVM-3, and this thing is an absolute beast, designed for the really big, ambitious missions.
And if you want to see that progress, just look at these numbers. Their first rocket could lift about 40 kilograms. That's it. That's like less than an average person weighs. Then came the PSLV, which jumped up to around 1,750 kilos. A big improvement. But the LVM-3 today, a whopping 10,000 kilograms. Can you even imagine that jump? That increase in pure power is the whole story. It's what opened the door for the missions that would make the whole world sit up and take notice.
Okay, so now they have the muscle. They've got the rockets. So what do? You aim higher. Much higher. And this is where we get to the missions that, honestly, just blew everyone away. So picture this. It's 2013. ISRO launches its Mars orbiter mission, Mangalyaan. And they did something no one, not the US, not Russia, not Europe, no one had ever done. They got to Mars on their very first try. First attempt. It was an absolutely jaw-dropping moment that made the entire space community say, wait, who are these guys? But here's the kicker, the part everyone talks about. The whole mission cost just $74 million. You know what cost more than that? The Hollywood movie Gravity. I mean, that's insane. This is where ISRO's trademark frugal engineering became famous. They weren't just successful, they were smart, lean, and more efficient than pretty much anyone else. All right, so after Mars, they aimed for the moon. In 2019, the Chandrayaan-2 mission, the whole country, the whole world was watching. The lander was coming down closer and closer, just moments away from making history. And then, nothing. Silence. They lost contact. It was just gut-wrenching, a huge national heartbreak. But that wasn't the end of the story. No, they learned from what went wrong. They regrouped, and 4 years later, on August 23, 2023, redemption. Chandrayaan-3 came down for a perfect, flawless landing. And get this, they didn't just land on the moon. They landed on the lunar South Pole, a place no one had ever gone before. First country ever to do it. With that single touchdown, India walked right into the most exclusive club in the cosmos. I mean, landing on the moon is incredible, right? But it brings us right back to that original question from Dr. Sarabhai. How does this help people back here on Earth? Well, the answer is, in a lot of really practical ways you might not even think about. Okay, for example, you know the GPS on your phone. Most of the world is using the American system. Well, India went ahead and built its very own version, called Navik. Why does that matter?
It means they have a completely independent system for navigation. That's huge, for everything from your car's map to military and security operations.
And their satellites? They're literal lifesavers. These eyes in the sky give them the data they need to predict things like massive cyclones or floods. That warning gives people precious time to get to safety. So when you talk about real-world impact, it doesn't get more real than that.
They're even using space to change healthcare. Think about this. With satellite technology, a patient in a really small remote village can have a live video call with a top doctor in a big city hospital. I mean, that is the perfect example of that original mission, right? Using space to solve a huge problem right here on Earth. So you've got Mars, the moon, disaster relief, telemedicine. The impact is undeniable. But here's the thing. They feel like they're just getting warmed up. What's coming next is, well, it's their most ambitious plan yet.
So what's the plan? Well, step 1 is the Gaganyaan mission. That's going to put Indian astronauts into orbit on an Indian rocket for the very first time. After that, they're going to build their own space station. And the final goal, the big one, an Indian astronaut standing on the moon by the year 2040. It's a clear, bold path to becoming a major player in space. You know, the story of Isro really shows you don't need to have the deepest pockets to have the biggest dreams. It's a story all about being resilient, being clever and resourceful, and never losing sight of that core belief that space is for helping humanity. They went from being the ultimate underdog to a world leader that did something no one else could. So really, there's only one question left to ask. What on earth, or off it, are they going to do next?